What's going on, YouTube family? Today we have an absolutely hilarious video for you guys. We're going to be talking about why people hate car dealerships so much. Now, yesterday I was invited to a mixer with one of my friends to talk about how social media can help grow your business. After I got off stage, I started talking to a few people, and then they asked me what I did for a living before I did social media, and I told them I was a car dealer. And the looks I got were absolutely hilarious. People looked at me, stared, asked questions like, "You don't look like a dealer, you don't talk like a dealer." So as they asked more questions, I got intrigued and I said, "Okay, well, what is your opinion of a dealer? What do you think of them?" And I was bombarded for over an hour of just nothing but crazy questions, negative stories. And so I wanted to share this on the channel because I do this video probably about once a year just to kind of keep the market transparent, because the whole purpose of this channel is to be transparent about the automotive industry. So I'm going to tell you from a dealer side and an actual customer's side and give you both sides of the coin. So this way you can see why the other one is doing what they are. Now, the funny thing that they talked about the most was the fact of pricing. Now, we all know that during the pandemic, everybody lost their minds and started paying way over MSRP. Now, when it comes to brand new cars, unfortunately, that is a lot of the new dealers. They did that. But when it came to used cars, that was all up to the customer. So as I started explaining it to these people, they were actually shocked and surprised when I told them at the end of the day, a dealership can only sell the car for what they could sell it for. So if there's somebody stupid enough to pay $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 over MSRP, then they're just going to keep finding more and more idiots until they run out of idiots or until they can't sell any cars, then they'll lower the price. So after telling them that and stating that that's the current market we're in now, is they can't sell anything over MSRP, it all started to make sense. So yes, we do blame dealers a lot of times for that, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of idiots that were more than willing to overpay and get themselves buried in debt to buy these types of cars. Now, when it comes to used cars, that was a little bit of a mixture of not only the customers and the dealers, but also the banks. Banks were going like 160, 170% of LTV, loan to value, on vehicles. So if you have a $14,000 Toyota Corolla, during the pandemic, you could have probably sold it for $22,000 because they were such in demand and there wasn't enough to go around, and banks were just basically throwing money at everybody. So after explaining that as well, people started to understand and figure out that now that the market's turned the other way, there's going to be more deals because the financing is tightening up. Now, one of the big things that I kept getting over and over again was just all the lies and misrepresentation. So I call this section Deceptive Practices. Dealers are taught to basically not to divulge the whole truth or to use these tactics for negotiating. Some dealers do it, some dealers don't. Unfortunately, 99% of dealers you probably won't like. There's about 1% out there that are good, but there are good dealers out there. So first we're going to talk about deceptive practices. So one of the first things is pricing. Now, everybody thinks that dealers are always trying to charge way more than what the car is actually worth. But dealers selling a car is just like you selling your house. If the house is worth $500,000, we don't care if you put gold-plated toilets in there. The bank will only finance $500,000 because that's the actual value of the car. Or excuse me, the house. The exact same thing when it comes to cars. Cars are only worth what Kelley Blue Book says they're worth. That's why banks use Blue Book. Now, the two deciding factors is down payment, customer credit, and then also sometimes the car itself. Now, if you want to pay over, let's say for this gold-plated toilets in this house, and the guy wants 700 grand, if you could pay $200,000 out of your own pocket, they'll finance the 500,000, and that's how we get to the car sector, where there is more than enough people putting big payments down, and they were financing the rest, which is basically putting it closer to retail. On top of that, a lot of times dealers place stuff on retail prices because we don't know what kind of customer is going to come in. So if you have good credit, so if you want to buy my $25,000 G-Wagon, if you have good credit, I can drop the price to maybe $23,000. But if you have bad credit, the banks will charge me anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 to buy your deal from me. That's how banks punish us when we get customers with bad credit. So if you have good credit, sometimes they'll give me even more. They'll say, hey, we'll give you $25,000, but we'll give you an additional maybe $2,000 to $3,000 on the back end if you want to add a warranty, if the customer doesn't want to put a down payment and finance the sales tax. Whatever the case is, that's the way it works. It gets based off the car, the customer credit, and how much money the customer is willing to put down. These are some of the biggest things when it comes to pricing. So even though the dealership has a car priced way over what you think it's worth, they may not be able to sell it for that because unless somebody's dumb enough to put a big chunk of money down, or they have really, really good credit and they want to finance the whole amount, that's why they're shooting for the moons and stars. Because at the end of the day, I've had deals at my dealership, the same thing. maybe 20% of the people had great credit, and I got charged zero fees, and I made, $3,000-$4,000 on each customer. But then I get all the subprime buyers, people that have bad credit or challenge credit or maybe a repo, and banks are charging me $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to pick up these deals. We wind up either losing money or breaking money, and so it's always a constant balancing act. Now, I'm not saying the dealers are trying to not overcharge you, which most of them are, but that just gives you an inside glimpse on why dealers always put the price really high and try to stay there, because they're trying to pad their books. Because at the end of the day, if everybody came in and we gave discounts to everybody, every single dealership would be bankrupt, unfortunately. So that's the way it works. So it's always a balancing act with customers with good credit, customers with bad credit. That's why you actually see dealers now. I have friends of mine, they have very small dealerships. Unless you're a 700 credit score, they won't even talk to you. They literally put that on their website. We do tier 1 financing. Don't call us because we have no subprime financing, just because they don't want to get charged fees or have what's called recourse with the deal. Recourse is if I sell you a car and the bank gives me 3 months recourse, that means that you have to make all 3 payments on your car. If you don't, I have to give the bank back their money, and then I have to chase you, the customer, to go get my car back. And so that's why it's very challenging when you deal with people with bad credit. Now, another thing about pricing is when they lie in advertisements. This drives me nuts. I always tell people, look for the asterisk symbol. When you see that, you already know you're getting screwed. When they put something like, hey, buy this G-Wagon, for $30,000, and you're thinking, wow, that's cheap. I'm going to go buy this $30,000 G-Wagon because all the rest of them in town are maybe $35,000. But then when you drive up to the dealership and you get there, oh, there's a $2,000 reconditioning fee, $1,000 finance fee, $1,000 destination fee, $2,000 car salesman cocaine fee, child support fee. So they just fee you to death. And by the time you get done, you find out the car's $37,000. It's actually more expensive than the other cars that you looked at earlier before. Now, one of the things I did at my dealership is I always put price includes everything except sales tax. And the only reason I couldn't include that is because I didn't know if you were trading in a car, if you're doing a lease, or if you're buying from out of state, you're not going to pay Nevada sales tax. And so I always put that in the fine print, but I always put the real price. And you know what made me mad is I would put my price low. People would still call me and try to lowball me, but then they would go to another dealership. Well, there's one that's $2,000 cheaper down the street. I was like, I promise you, go to that dealership and see how much cheaper it is. When you get there, they're going to tell you it's maybe my Jeep Wrangler's $25,000 and their Jeep Wrangler's $23,000. By the time you're done, I guarantee you that Jeep Wrangler is probably $27,000 or $28,000. And like clockwork, they always come back. Oh, they lied, this fee, that fee. They wouldn't give me a price. They wanted to know how much money I had down, trade-in, stuff like that. And so, these are some of the things that unfortunately customers have to deal with. But as a dealer, or as a consumer, you always want to call the dealership and ask them, hey, what is the sales price of the car? Not only that, what other fees are included in there besides sales tax? And ask them for an actual clear defined price, especially if you're traveling. Because I know during the pandemic, one of the things I preached was driving over state lines to find better deals. Don't just look in your area. And there were lots of people that were driving hundreds, if not thousands of miles, being lied to by dealers. So by the time they get there thinking they're going to buy maybe this C8 Corvette that they got for at MSRP, they get hit with like $4,000 or $5,000 in additional fees. So I know this is one of the many reasons why people hate dealers, but it was kind of funny. The way people talk to me about how they get investigated when somebody shows up to the lot is the way they didn't like the way the car salesman's approached them. So what I mean by this is when you go up to a car dealership, most car salesmen have about maybe 5 minutes to pre-qualify you. So it is their job to find out as much as they can about you. What's your name? How long have you lived in the area? What do you do for a living? What kind of money do you make? The car you drove in, is that a rental? Are you looking to trade it in? Do you still owe money? So, usually what I would do is I'd always be friendly. Hey folks, how you doing? Are you new to the area? That lets me know if they've been in town for a while. Oh, that's cool. Oh, what do you folks do for a living? Oh, I'm a plumber. My wife is a nurse. And so it's like, I try to be friendly about getting this information, but I know a lot of salesmen don't do that. They'll walk up to you. What do you make? How long you been in your job? How's your credit? Like just right out the get-go without building any type of rapport or walking around the sales lot with them to just kind of build up that, rapport and get that information out of them. They're just right to the point. And unfortunately, a lot of salesmen are like that because They didn't have to be a good salesman during the pandemic. You literally just had to have a pulse. I watched all these TikTokers and guys on social media like, oh, I'm selling cars. I'm rich. I'm the best car salesman. Just like in stocks, everybody is a genius in the bull market and everybody's making money. But now that we're in a recession, all these guys are crying. They're going broke. They're not making any money. They're flying from dealership to dealership, trying to make some sort of sales, and they're only taking guaranteed salaries. They're no longer on commission. And so that's why I tell a lot of people, professional salesmen always know, build a rapport, get to know your customer, and because basically if they like you, they're going to buy from you. And if you're a friendly person and you come off, you're actually genuinely interested in trying to help them, more than likely you'll get through. But most people are like, what are you here for? What do you got? And they always feel that pushy, that greasy vibe. When people said I don't look like a car salesman, it was usually because they said I wasn't pushy. I didn't have that sleaze bag mentality, which is funny, and I didn't look like a sleaze bag. And so that's the way people perceive the automotive industry, especially car dealers, which is pretty hilarious. Now, one of the other things that people kept saying that they absolutely hated about car dealerships is when it came time to actually negotiate. They never knew why they had to basically yell, scream, and kick to get the best deal. They'd rather just go in there, give me your best deal, shake hands, and then walk away. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and this is a glimpse behind the curtain. No sales manager will ever give you the best deal on the first try. Their job, and literally the way the company is structured, you do not come with your first best offer. You deny until they get so pissed off that they're walking away, then maybe you can do something. And that's one of the things I absolutely hate. At my dealership, no pressure sales. People walked in, what's the price? $16.95. Can you do any better? Nope, that's what the price is. Unfortunately, I'm making $1,000 on it. If you like it, great. If you have bad credit and the bank charges me $2,000, unfortunately, I have to put another $1,000 down to cover the loss. And, I was just blunt. My new dealership, which is Panda Auto Sales, the reason why I called it that is because I want everything to be black and white. It's simple. Here's the price. Here's the warranty. Here's the financing. That's it. No lies, no BS, no bullshit. Take it or walk away. Doesn't really bother me. But unfortunately, when you're at a dealership and you're negotiating with these guys, they'll drag you through their mud for 2 to 3 hours. I saw a funny study. People would much rather have a root canal and a colonoscopy than go buy a brand new car, which is pretty horrendous. So just the fact that people don't want to sit there and get haggled and beat up for hours on hours doesn't make, anybody happy, make them want to buy cars. Car buying should be a very fun experience. That's the way I think about it. You make 2 major purchases in your lifetime. Usually it's a car and it's a house. So if you're lucky enough to be a part of them buying maybe their first car or their first, new car or high dollar car, you should take that with a privilege and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take care of you. I want to make sure you're happy with the whole process. I want you to leave feeling that you got the car you wanted and the service you wanted. For some reason, the service part just disappeared. I remember before we were like, get the customer's name, we'll write down your birthday, we'll send you gift cards, birthday cards, all that stuff. Now, dealerships are told, don't you let them walk out unless you get your phone number and your email. So all these salesmen are scared about losing their jobs, so they beat the hell out of you. What's your number? What's your phone number? Give me your email. What's your number? And if you don't give it to them, then they wind up getting in trouble. And if they get enough of them where they don't receive numbers or information, they get fired. And so that's why there's this pressure all the way from the top. And that's why it's usually bad management. It's really lazy sales managers just pushing their salesmen to the brink of exploding, where some people actually care about their customers and they're like, okay, well, the customer, he's not really, willing to give up his phone number. He just wants some pricing. Most sales managers will tell that salesman, shut up and go back. You're weak. You don't know what you're doing. Grind them. You're the man. You take control. And so don't get me wrong, sometimes you can be aggressive when it comes to sales if you're closing. But if you're in the beginning stages, like if I'm trying to get to know you and I'm sitting here like, what's your number? What's your phone number? Give me your email. What are you buying? How much money you got? You're going to look at me like I'm crazy and tell me to, F off. And so that's what a lot of people are getting right now. So I think that's where so much hatred comes from the automotive industry. Another thing is the fact of when you try to trade in your car, dealers want to make you pay top end for their car, but when you trade in your car, automatically, even if you're fair, like, oh yeah, the Kelley Blue Book says it's worth $8,000, I'll take $8,000. And they're like, we'll give you $4,000 for it. And it's like they hit you low and they literally wait for you to explode or to walk out before they do any type of deal with you. Now, another thing that a lot of people got triggered on was the fact of what's called rolling. Rolling is when you structure a deal. Let's say you come in, like, I want to buy this G-Wagon. Oh yeah, no problem. $500 down, $1,000 a month, and you can drive away in this G-Wagon. So you sign the paperwork, you leave, and they wait for 2 to 3 days. They let you show all your friends, your family. You're showing off on social media. Look at my new G-Wagon. I'm so cool. And now they know they got you. So what they do is they call you back. Oh, Mr. Smith, you know what? Your $500 down and $1,000 a month is not going to work. We need $5,000 down, and your payments are going to be $1,500 a month. And they're going to be like, well, but I don't have that, or, oh, I already did this. And they're hoping that you shared the car with so many people and you're already addicted to it that you'll find a way to basically tax yourself financially to keep that car because you don't want to look like a fool giving up this car in front of all your friends. And it is a very common tactic. I absolutely hate that. I will never roll a customer because I hate having them leave excited just to have disappointment come back. And they'll do this. And on top of that, I've talked to a few of the people there at the party. They were telling me that one of the dealers actually kept $1,000 of their deposit. So I told them that's technically illegal. If you give them back the car because they changed the numbers, they have to give you every single cent back. No bullshit restocking fee, none of that stuff. It is actually illegal. If any dealer has done that to you in the past, all you got to do is go to the DMV, file a report saying I put a down payment. They said they weren't going to give it back because of restocking fees. I want my money back. And when you file that complaint, the DMV will knock on their door. And not only will they have to give you back their money, they're probably going to get anywhere from a $3,000 to $10,000 fine. So unfortunately, I don't like to get the DMV involved when it comes to dealer issues because usually when you do that, the dealership will get in trouble and they'll pay lots of money. But if they're screwing you and they don't want to play ball, that's one of the things you have to do. But after hearing this over and over again, well, I put a deposit down and they told me whatever, and they told me to kick rocks. And every time I asked for my money back, they told me, to F off. It's like, it's a very common thing. So make sure that you protect yourself, call the DMV if you've had that issue, and they'll take care of you. And this will be the last thing I'll leave you with is all about disclosures and reading your paperwork. I'm going to say this over and over again. Read your paperwork. If you don't know what it means or what it says, ask for clarification. This is key. Dealers, their whole job is to sell cars. Their job is not to translate really bad paperwork or be actual transparent about whatever transaction you're going on. One of my friends went out, bought a car, thought it was a clean title car, wound up being a rebuilt title. He signed all the paperwork, everything else, but in very fine print on the as is sticker, it said, rebuilt title, you're buying this as is, and you're financing at X amount of interest rate. So now he's got a car that he can't insure that he bought that's financed at a higher interest rate because it's rebuilt and he can't refinance it either. So now he's in really big trouble. Also, another thing, TMU, which is true mileage unknown. There are a lot of cars out there like that. So if you buy these cars, always ask for a Carfax, an auto check, and read through the whole thing entirely before you sign. Also, it's all about disclosures in your financial contract. If, let's say, they owe you something like, hey, you said you're going to fix this dent on my car. There's a big dent or scratch right here. No problem. We'll fix it for you. Say, okay, you need to write it down in the we owe part of the contract. This is very important. Oops, sorry about that. You need to make sure that they actually write everything down, because if they don't write it down, by law, they don't have to do this. And what dealers will do is be like, oh yeah, we're busy this week. Come back in like 2 weeks or 3 weeks and we'll take care of you. And then what they'll do is they'll have you come in and then tell you they're going to order the parts, and then they blow you off for like 2 or 3 months, hoping that you just give up. So it's a very common practice. So if they're promised anything, ask for it in writing. And if they say they don't have to, that you could trust them at their word, don't do it. Get it in writing. Next is, I can't tell you how many times people actually got lied to when it came to their sales contract, where they were told, I'm buying this car for $30,000, but then when they get to the sales contract, it's $35,000. You need to read through every single little thing just to make sure that you're not getting screwed. If you said that you want 10% interest and they give you 18%, ask them why. See why is it 18% on your contract. If you put $3,000 down, make sure it says that on your contract. Salesmen and dealerships will try to pocket your down payment. It's a real thing, so make sure you do that. Also, if you're trading in a car, make sure it's on the contract. Everything you do needs to be spelled out very legibly for you to read and understand, so this way you know that your deal is totally covered. Because what happens if you have a problem, you have an issue, you go file a complaint at the DMV, you have no backing. Well, I didn't know that I signed signed all this paperwork and they told me it was 8%, but it was really 18%. And if you think I'm joking, like go back and watch a few of my videos. There's tons of people where we interviewed where they were paying almost double what they thought they were. You know, they were financing it for 60 months when they find out that they sent the contract in for 72 months. Stuff like this is what dealerships do to get past a lot of people. They'll throw in warranties, little accessories, you know, PPF packages for like $4,000. Like I'm telling you, whatever they could stuff in on the contract, they'll do. So you need to go line by line in that contract to make sure that it's transparent and represents the deal, that you know what's going on. And like I said, if you don't know what it is, ask. Because if you assume, what does that do? It makes an ass out of you and me. So hopefully if you're watching these videos, you're a little more clever than most people out there. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Please share in the comment section below your dealer stories. Has a dealer done something to you? Hided your keys when they're inspecting your car? One of my friends, they actually took his car and like hid it from him around the other side of the building. They had to go hunt it down because they wouldn't let him leave because they were trying to get the deal. Have you bought a stolen car from a dealership? Have you had bad title paperwork? Did they lie about the financing contract? Whatever it is, share it in the comment section below so this way you can help other people not fall victim to the exact same scams. But once again, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Tomorrow is my Tesla SEMA build. If you want to see me stuff a 2JZ motor inside a Tesla, that'll be the video to see it. We'll see you guys next week.